Story 1. My husband and I have been trying for pregnancy for years now, and to cut a long story short, it seems as though it will never be a possibility. It took a long time to come to terms with, but we've gradually got there. Our entire family is aware of the journey we've been on and how much it meant to us. With that in mind, my husband and I came to his sister, Sarah, with a proposal. Sarah is in her early 30s, unmarried, and vocally against having children of her own. Despite this, we thought she might be open to the idea of a surrogate pregnancy on our behalf, given she would not have to be involved in raising the child personally. My husband is extremely close to his family, and the idea of the entire process of surrogacy being contained to his blood felt extremely important to him. With that closeness in mind, we did not feel it was out of order to ask this sort of question. We invited Sarah over for dinner and at the end of it laid out our request. We told her we had been saving over the years and would be willing to pay her as much as a regular surrogate would be paid, a pretty hefty fee, so she would be able to take time off from work if it was required, help her out with everything she needed, plus we had no expectations that she must help raise the child just because she carried it. We told her why it was important to us and how much it'd mean, and asked her to have an open mind about it. Sarah exploded at us. She said we were both out of our minds for making such a request, extremely selfish, and that we had no respect for her disinterest in children. She actually left early. Right now she's refusing to take calls from us and even went as far as to ask my husband's parents to tell us to both not contact her until she decides to initiate it herself. My husband's parents are sympathetic to us but say that we should have kept in mind Sarah's difficulties. My parents think she is behaving awfully. Most of my friends are on my side, but a few have said that it was a bit of a rude request given everyone knows how much Sarah hates kids. It's really weighing on my mind, and I honestly never expected this kind of outcome. She literally blocked us on every platform she could. Story 2. The day I left for university, my parents' goodbye was surprisingly brief and cold. Don't call, they told me, a strange instruction that I brushed off as their way of encouraging me to be independent. When I came home for Christmas, they barely spoke to me and gave me no gifts, yet another sign of their detached affection. The true shock came at the end of the school year. I called their number, only to be met with a disconnected message. A wave of panic washed over me. I eventually reached my grandmother, who, in a hushed tone, revealed that my parents had moved. "I have their new number, but I was told not to give it to you until you graduate," she said, before hanging up. With no money and nowhere to go, I was left completely stranded. For the next month, I was homeless. I sold what little I owned to get by, and from that point on, I made a commitment to myself. I lived on less than 20% of my income, saving every spare dollar. My hard work wasn't just about survival, it was about building a future they had tried to steal from me. After 25 years of relentless struggle, that resolve paid off. I had finally made it, a vice president at a software company. A couple of weeks ago, I was walking down the street when I saw my mother. My face remained a mask, but she approached me, inviting me to dinner. I agreed, not out of forgiveness, but because I needed answers. At the dinner table, my father finally broke his silence. He said they had left me because I insisted on pursuing a hobby in software instead of becoming an accountant. I looked him in the eye and said, "My hobby, at least, made me a millionaire." Without missing a beat, they asked for $2 million, claiming it was their rightful payment for raising me and making me the man I am today. Story 3. My third year of university was coming to an end, and I was making plans to finally move out, eager for the independence that awaited me. But my parents, in a sudden and alarming shift, absolutely freaked out. They forbade me from leaving, claiming it was stupid to waste money on rent when I could save by staying at home. Their vehemence was puzzling, but the true reason soon unraveled. Unbeknownst to me, my parents had been taking out credit cards and loans in my name. For a while, they managed to keep up with the payments, but I never saw the bills. I didn't even have a key to our mailbox. The facade crumbled when their payments faltered. What I discovered next was a financial nightmare. I was $660,000 in debt, a crushing sum I had no means of paying off. I confronted them, demanding they immediately clear the debt and, in an attempt to regain some control over my own life, insisted they change their house rules so my boyfriend could stay over. Their response was cold and unyielding. They claimed they had no money to pay off the debt and flatly told me I couldn't strong-arm them into changing the rules of their house. Feeling trapped and desperate, I called my aunt, pleading to stay with her for a bit. She agreed, but not without asking a barrage of questions. Her tone shifted as she began to share stories, not just of parents making mistakes, but of children allowing those mistakes to derail their futures. Her words resonated deeply, sparking a realization I couldn't ignore. That conversation lit a fire within me. I knew what I had to do. I went straight to the police and reported everything. It wasn't long before my parents were arrested and charged with their crimes. The path ahead is uncertain, but at least now, the truth is out and justice can begin its course. Story 4. It's become a real challenge to spend time with our friend, Lauren. At 46, she's a strict vegan and doesn't drink, which on its own wouldn't be an issue. However, her choices have effectively limited our group's social outings and, frankly, my desire to go out at all. I found myself avoiding invitations just to sidestep the predictable lectures about alcohol or the need to spend money on food I don't truly enjoy. When Lauren finally asked why I kept bailing, I decided to be direct. "Your choices limit mine," I explained. "I don't go out often, and when I do, I want to genuinely enjoy it. If I'm in the mood for a steak and a vodka tonic, I don't want to feel judged." I made it clear that I'd happily join her for a salad and water, or we could find non-food activities like a daytime beach trip, but her dietary and lifestyle choices were increasingly dictating our plans. Our restaurant options are already limited, and finding places that truly cater to her while also satisfying the rest of us is difficult. Beyond the logistical hurdles, her reactions to our choices are the real sticking point. She gets visibly upset if anyone orders obvious meat dishes like a hamburger, and if we order alcoholic drinks, we can expect a barrage of videos on the harmful effects of alcohol sent to us later. My honesty didn't go over well. Lauren countered that friendship should be about enjoying each other's company. I suggested practical solutions. She could eat beforehand and then join us, or we could alternate who picks the restaurant. She flatly refused, stating she wouldn't watch people eat meat. At that point, I had to draw a line, telling her I wasn't going to cater to her needs every single time. Later, a mutual friend texted me, admitting they were also fed up with Lauren's attempts to control our dining experiences and social lives. It seems I'm not the only one feeling the strain of her uncompromising demands. Story 5. We broke up at the start of this year, and it was honestly one of the worst times of my life. I thought I'd never get over him. I remember lying awake at night feeling sick, wanting so badly for him to text or call. I kept replaying every good moment in my head and wondering what I did wrong. I felt like I was just waiting to be wanted again. For a while I let myself completely fall apart. I stopped caring about how I looked, barely ate anything decent, skipped classes, even started ignoring my friends. It was embarrassing how much I just shut down. Eventually I got so tired of being miserable that I forced myself to start over. I went out even when I didn't feel like it, worked out more, tried to find little joys in stuff like shopping or new music. I slowly started remembering what it felt like to like myself again. And then out of nowhere, he reached out. Said he missed me. Said he was sorry. That he thought about me all the time. It was exactly what I'd been wanting to hear for so long. I felt like I was floating when he first called. We got back together. At first it felt perfect. Like maybe all that pain was worth it because he finally realized. But honestly, it didn't take long before all the old problems showed up again. The same dumb arguments. The same things he did that hurt me without even trying. The same ways I felt like I had to hold back my own feelings just to keep the peace. I realized I hadn't really missed him. I missed the idea of us. The hope that he could be what I needed. And once I got it back, I remembered why I'd left. We ended it again. This time I'm not hoping he'll call. I'm still sad but also relieved. I know it sounds so cliché, but it's true that you have to learn to choose yourself. I wish I hadn't wasted so much time wanting someone who made me feel small. I'm trying really hard not to let this make me bitter but to actually grow from it. I guess that's the best I can do. Story 6. My husband's treatment of my son has become a constant source of frustration, especially concerning our newborn daughter. He acts as though my son is a dirty trash can in her presence. If my son so much as kisses the baby, my husband will erupt, shouting, "Don't you ever kiss that baby again. That's disgusting, you could give her a virus." Any movement my son makes while holding her sends my husband into a panic, terrified she might get hurt. He even tells him not to blow raspberries on her belly. This behavior infuriates me, especially knowing my son isn't his biological child. Yesterday, things came to a head when my mother-in-law visited. She full-on kissed our daughter right beside her mouth, and to my absolute disbelief, my husband just sat there smiling, saying nothing. I couldn't hold back. I repeated his exact words to my son, a direct quote, "Don't you ever kiss that baby again. That's disgusting, you are going to give her a virus." She immediately stopped, but then, unbelievably, she started swinging our daughter in a football hold with her head pointed down toward the floor, moving quite fast. I instantly told her to stop holding the baby like that and that she was being too rough. Her dismissive response was, "I've had 4 kids, I am not dumb." My patience snapped. "I don't care," I told her firmly. "Stop. Hands off the baby." She finally handed our daughter over and left about 5 minutes later. As soon as she was gone, my husband turned on me, accusing me of being rude to his mom and overreacting. His double standard is glaring, and his inability to defend our daughter from his own mother's reckless behavior, while constantly berating my son for innocent gestures, is truly appalling. Story 7. My boyfriend and I have been together for a little over 2 years. We've known each other since preschool and stayed in touch even after I switched schools and countries in high school. He was always kind, we were nice friends, distant but warm. After he got out of an abusive relationship a few years ago, we reconnected and started dating. At first, everything was great. We came from totally different backgrounds, and it was exciting getting to know each other's worlds. But things got complicated when he told his mother about our relationship. I've known her since we were kids, but out of nowhere, she contacted his ex about us. That ex ended up threatening and harassing me online, and his mom made a scene about him not caring about her anymore, which she still occasionally does. He sincerely apologized and said he didn't expect that to happen. I nearly ended things, but I gave him another chance because I thought he'd learn. Unfortunately, it kept happening. His mom would get involved in our business, make inappropriate comments, and overstep boundaries. He'd always apologize but never actually set limits. I had to block her. Currently, I live alone, but I've been staying with my dad temporarily while sick. A few days ago, I got really sick, high fever, vomiting, blood in my urine, had to go to the hospital. My boyfriend came with me, my dad is elderly, which I appreciated. While we were there, he texted his mom to let her know what was going on. I never asked him to do this, and I'd specifically asked him before to keep certain things private. But since he lives with her, I get that he needed to say where he was and that wasn't the issue. The problem is, his mom immediately reached out to my mom. I've been estranged from my mother for over a year due to deeply personal and traumatic reasons. I've made it very clear I don't want contact. While I'm in a hospital bed weak and nauseous, my dad gets flooded with texts and calls from her because of him. His mom told mine I was dying and not functioning properly. I was furious. I told him to leave. My dad asked him to stay until I was okay. After I was discharged, he took me home. On the way, he tried to talk, but I didn't have the energy. I was sick, humiliated, and hurt. The next night, he wanted to talk things out. He started with, "I don't think it was fair how you reacted." He said he felt disrespected that I got angry over something out of his control. He said I was full of anger and acting unfairly. He also said some of our friends agreed that he didn't do anything wrong. He did apologize after, saying he could have handled his mom better but doesn't see how this could have been prevented. I told him I just want boundaries with his mom. I don't want him sharing personal info about me, especially knowing her history of stirring drama and crossing lines. But he doesn't see the issue and I honestly don't think he ever has. Was I wrong? Was this really out of his control? Story 8. I grew up alongside another family. Our parents the best of friends. Their son, Jake, was my closest companion until we were about 15. We were inseparable, sharing countless childhood adventures. Though we've drifted apart since then, our families remain obsessed with the idea of Jake and me ending up together. This obsession became a real problem when Jake and I both found significant others. Our families were far from happy, relentlessly pushing for us to be a couple. One Christmas, I felt compelled to explain this family law to Jake's fiancée, Tracy, reassuring her that Jake and I were just friends. Ironically, this shared understanding actually brought Jake and me closer again. As Jake and Tracy's wedding approached, the family pressure intensified. They even produced a fake childhood picture of Jake and me getting married, using it to subtly, and not so subtly, pressure Tracy to call off the wedding. Then came the ambush. My brother invited me out one day, but it turned out to be Jake's bachelor party. Before I knew it, our families were actively trying to push Jake and me together. Jake, clearly uncomfortable, apologized and asked me not to attend the wedding, explaining it was making Tracy uneasy. He drove me home that night. The next day, chaos erupted. A video of Jake and me leaving the party together surfaced. Tracy called me, understandably upset, while our families, oblivious to the damage they were causing, actually celebrated. Their relentless, manipulative efforts to force a relationship between Jake and me have not only created immense distress for us but have also deeply hurt the people we care about. Story 9. She has always had issues contributing to the household, including buying things like toilet paper, dish soap, laundry detergent, etc. She also rarely does her dishes promptly or takes out the trash or other household chores, and struggles to pay utilities on time. Sometimes I even have to hound her for the rent. I felt bad at first because clearly she wasn't equipped to live alone, but I quickly got frustrated and became short with her. We were friends at first but not so much anymore after I've had to put up with her for this long. Our year-long lease ended and we have been living month to month since then. Eventually she got a boyfriend. He lives with his parents but that hasn't stopped her from spending most of her time at their house. I started seeing her less and less. A couple days into May, I hadn't seen her for maybe 2 weeks. I texted and called her to see when she was going to pay her share of rent, due on the 5th, but she basically ghosted me. I got in contact with her mom and eventually my roommate reached out to say she's staying with her boyfriend's family for now, and doesn't think she should be expected to pay rent for somewhere she's not staying. I kindly asked if that meant she would be moving out, but she didn't respond. I paid rent myself, which was a huge unexpected expense. After that I decided I was done. I texted her over the course of May and June asking her to move her stuff out, but she didn't respond to me. Her mom kept promising me that her daughter would take care of it, but she never once got back to me. After July started, I recruited a couple friends to help me pack up the stuff in her room and donated most of it to Goodwill and the Salvation Army. I also asked the landlord to change the locks, which he did. The other evening she finally shows up and is mad that the locks have been changed. I told her she's not living here and doesn't pay rent, so she has no reason to enter the apartment. She got even more upset and said that she was never moving out, she was just staying with him for the time being. She told me the situation didn't work out, so she planned to come back and live here again. I told her that she was already off the lease and it's my rental now. She started crying and said she had nowhere else to go, and I felt really bad. She asked if she could at least get some of her stuff. She needed some clean clothes and a shower. I told her that because she never told me she was coming back or made plans to move her stuff out, I donated everything that was in her room unless it looked precious or expensive and stored the rest in her closet. She completely freaked out and threatened to call the police on me. She was inconsolable. She cried about how I even donated her dead grandmother's wedding dress, which had been in a special box somewhere in her room. I apologized profusely because I did feel really bad, but it all could have been avoided if she had tried to communicate with me. Story 10. My husband had been sick for a long time. I was his carer and was able to work from home to be there when he needed me. When we went to hospital, I was his advocate. His children would call or stop by just to ask for money. I even gave up a works bonus to give it all to his daughter. We took £1,000 out of our limited savings to help the other with the understanding she would pay it back. We did not expect massive payments, just like £20 a month. My husband finally realized what they were doing and stopped giving them money. This was about 2 years before he passed. The girls stopped calling or coming by at all once the bank dried up. I could see how badly it affected him. At times he would just stare off into space and say he missed them. Both girls had changed their phone numbers and had moved from their home, so we had no way to get in touch. Our numbers were the same. The landline was about 10 years old and the mobiles about 8 years. So they could have called anytime or stopped by, as we had been at that address for 14 years. My passed at the end of December. It was really unexpected, as he was doing okay. I was absolutely hysterical about his death. And then I found out the coroner may wish to do an autopsy, as it was unexpected. The time of year made a backlog of cases for the coroner, so we had to wait. It took me a week to even think of notifying his daughters. I realize I should have tried to reach out earlier, but I was not doing well with the loss. I remembered one of the daughters having a Facebook account, so I looked through and found her. I sent her the message, "Please call, urgent." I got a call almost immediately and told her what had happened. About 20 minutes later, there was frantic knocking on the door. The younger of his girls was out there spitting fire. It took me a week to tell them. She asked when the funeral was being held, and we told her we didn't know but would be telling them the minute we found out. She accused me of lying about it and that I wouldn't let them know when their own father's funeral reel would be. A few days later I started get text messages with "I want this item" or that one. It was becoming ridiculous. I rounded up everything that had been theirs and gave it to them. Plus more from the texts they asked for. It was funny, after 2 years of silence, suddenly they wanted rings of his. I was finally able to arrange his funeral, and a few days later his ashes were delivered to me. The final text I got from them was, "Can we have some of his ashes for remembrance jewelry?" I said no. I told them my husband had never even wanted me to notify them he had died, so I was going to give them any of his ashes. Story 11. So I was spending the night at a girl's place after about 4 weeks of dating. She wasn't feeling well and was a bit off, but we still decided to hang out. I fell asleep first and apparently started snoring, which kept her awake. She nudged me after 30 minutes, but even with a nasal strip I kept snoring. Half asleep, I offered to move to the living room so she could get some rest. I thought it was weird doing that this early in the dating phase, but I didn't mind if it helped her sleep. In the living room, there was a smart lamp that could only be turned off via her phone. I asked her to turn it off, but she said it had to stay on because her dog might need to drink water during the night and wouldn't be able to find the bowl in the dark. I found this explanation a bit absurd, but didn't want to argue. She then asked me if I would want to sleep with the lights on or better go home. She told me to decide. So I left, wished her a good night politely, and didn't want to cause drama. The next day she told me she felt fucked off by my attitude. Later on a call, she made me feel like I was the idiot and summed it all up like I was the unreasonable one. I said I found the "go home then" part hurtful, and she just said that's how she is, and if I don't like it, maybe we're not a match. We ended up resolving it for the sake of peace, but I felt like my point wasn't acknowledged and it still lingers in my head. Story 12. For years my brother has been trying to go into business with my husband. It hasn't worked out for various reasons, but he finally had an idea that my husband thought would be successful. The thing is, before my husband goes into business with anyone, he does an extensive background check on them. I'm not sure if he made my brother aware he was going to do a check or not, but it's how he found out that my brother has a daughter outside of his marriage. I had no idea this child existed, and my husband warned me I shouldn't say anything, but I couldn't just not tell my parents, so I told them a few days ago. They were as shocked as me, as they also had no idea she existed, and they immediately confronted my brother about it. Turns out his wife is fully aware but said she would leave if he tried to include his daughter in the family, which is why neither one of them told any of us about her. My parents want to meet her and include her in our family, but my sister-in-law is threatening to leave if that happens, so my brother won't give them her mother's contact information. They want my husband to find out for them, but he's refusing to get involved, so everything's a shit show right now. I personally want to meet my niece, so I've told my husband if he doesn't give me the information, I'll ask the friend he uses for background checks myself, which has caused multiple fights between us. My brother hates me right now and is blaming me for his potential divorce, but I don't think it's fair, as I didn't know my parents would immediately confront him. I did ask them not to.